G'day and welcome to the GameDay Squad NRL Fantasy Show. I'm Stu, that's Dill, and we're the Fantasy Bros. Back again, partnering with GameDay Squad to bring you all you need to know to succeed in GDS Rugby League this season. Dill, it's Wednesday once again, and we're already at round 17. The season has just absolutely flown by, hasn't it? Team List Tuesday has obviously already dropped. We've already started to make some changes to our teams for round 17. Before we get into all of those changes and who we're going to select, how'd you go on round 16 as well as the Queensland versus New South Wales game too?
Yeah, g'day Stu, g'day viewers and listeners. Yeah, I can't believe it is round 17 already. We're getting that much closer to the pointy end of the season and starting to make our moves on the leaderboards, hopefully. For me, yeah, game 2 of Queensland versus New South Wales. Firstly, what a cracker of a game. I think, we all wrote off Queensland, but deep down we hoped that they had a big game and surely they came out and did. Unfortunately, couldn't get quite enough points to get me up on the top of the leaderboard, but I'm still a few points away from potentially striking sort of that top 3 spot. So it could be 1 or 2 good picks and maybe a certain rarity or 2 go my way. And we could be looking at a decent finish for the 3-game season for the Queensland versus New South Wales comp. But round 16 was my round, and I had a pretty nail-biting finish there in Challenger up against Prison Mike in particular. We were messaging back and forward on the Sunday when that second game kicked off, and we're doing some calculations and a bit of maths in our head. But I ended up on top based on decimal points. We ended on the same total number, but a couple of decimal points in it, and I finished first in Challenger. So pretty happy with that. I sort of put a couple of my hedges and a couple of pods into that, and they came off, which was great. And then also, most important thing, I won my Classic Cup matchup. So finished 8th there in Classic. So progressing on to the second round. Hopefully it'll be a bit similar for you, mate. How'd you end up?
Well done, mate. Absolutely flying. Yeah, great job taking out Challenger there by the literal skin of your teeth by the sounds of it. I'm sure Prison Mike would be pretty dirty about that. And don't sell yourself too short with the Queensland versus New South Wales game 2 score either. You finished in 8th for the round and me just ahead of you there in 6th, and both of us within striking distance for top gong come the end of round 3. Yeah, round 16, not best for me. Best place finish was 9th for the week in Challenger, but still sitting comfortably there in 3rd overall. And it looks like I'll have a nice pick in that prize card draft if I hang on and continue to make, the right choices in Challenger without getting too silly chasing the lead. I think Fire Breathers JT is, all but assured that top spot there, unless he does something silly like he did in the GDS Cup final. But yeah, look, he's absolutely flying a range of comps, which means I might even jump up a little bit higher in that prize card draft if I can start at 3rd. But mate, looks like we both of us are continuing to excel across all competitions. We both won our Classic Cup matchup, which is fantastic for me, given I lost round 1 of the starter comp earlier this season. So I've got the Mickey off my back. I've gotten through round 1. Shout out to, who was it? Lindsay's Tooth, I think. Only beat him by about 450 points, but it's nice to get a win under the belt finally, and move on to round 2.
Yeah, I love it. We've also got Mel joining us tonight in the chat. G'day, Mel. I believe she won her as well, potentially. She definitely won it over on the AFL side of things, where she's been helping me out a bit with some AFL there, because somehow I made it into the Classic Cup over there as well and won my first round. So thanks, Mel. The support goes back and forward. Look, obviously, some of our results speak for themselves. We are progressing up that leaderboard and winning the weekly competitions as well. So it's definitely a perfect time for you to jump on and listen to some of our key matchup stats and our expert tips that will be coming to you every Wednesday night. Make sure that you are following, subscribing our YouTube channel, FantasyBros AU, as well as our TikTok and Instagram, also at FantasyBros AU. We'll have plenty of information coming out, plenty of opportunities to win some prizes. And as always, it's never too late to get involved. Stu, do you want to talk through how people can get into GameDay Squad?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Although we're at round 17, it's certainly not too late for anyone to get started, really. There's a great way that everyone can still win some amazing prizes, both cash and pack related as well, particularly with the launch of the contender competition, which has been great to see a number of new names on that leaderboard given that a lot of the older, more seasoned players can't partake in that if they continue to put a challenger and a champion team in there. So, yeah, well done to all of those people that have taken advantage of the contender competition and gone well. There are some fantastic prizes available for finishing, not just in the top 10, but I think top 100 get pack prizes as well. So if you're someone that's just stumbled across GameDay Squad, or if you're someone that doesn't really play every week, or even if you've got some mates that are keen to get involved in GameDay Squad, perfect opportunity to get them signed up. Let them know that they can use our code. You can see that there on screen. It's FBRL25 when signing up, and they can get 21 common cards. So they can get plenty of silvers, golds, maybe even some platinums or diamonds, but they can use a lot of those golds and silvers to build some contender squads, which is an excellent way to win some cash and pack prizes and build that portfolio up for the seasons to come. So still plenty of pack and cash prizes to win. You don't have to be in it from round one. That's the beauty about GameDay Squad. You can profit any single week that you want to play. You might miss a week or two, and you can come back and reset that lineup and go well again and get some more packs. And how fun is it opening up some packs each week that you win some? Even if it's a 3-player common, there's always that little bit of hope that you're sitting there hoping to see some, the diamond outline or even a legend outline. And we've seen a couple of legends packed in some 3-player commons before. Yeah. So it's not out of the question. Just quickly, Dill, let's have a quick look at the Classic Cup. Do you want to run us through some week 1 results for week 2?
So as you said, we both got up in our week 1 results over in the Classic Cup. You got up over Lindsay's tooth and I beat Easy Beats. So I guess I had the easy matchup there, and that was good to start us off. So for that first one, we got a 3-player common pack each as the prize. And you can see there the prizes as you progress through the competition. Remembering you don't need to do anything except for set your lineups. The boys will do everything else. They will set your competitor, and it'll just be your head-to-head matchup. So it's you don't even have to score the highest points for the round. You don't have to be on that leaderboard. You just have to be able to beat your opponent in that matchup, which is a great little competition. And there's plenty of prizes there to help you along the way as well. So the boys will make sure that they get the week 2 matchups ready to go. You can head to the GameDay Squad Discord if you want to see them, as well as the help page where they'll be posted each and every week. There'll also be results there as well. So you can take a little sneaky peek at your opposition and see how they're progressing and how many points they scored from the previous week. If you need a bit of heads up and a little opportunity to maybe get one over on your opponent. It's a great opportunity. The starter GDS Cup was awesome. We had lots of fun, and the classic one is going to be just as good. And as you were talking about contender there, I just remembered one of our mates at work signed up yesterday, I believe. He's more on the AFL side of things, and I can't believe that's the second time I've said AFL on our NRL Rugby League fantasy show. But he jumped in and opened a few packs, and he got a diamond in one of his common packs, so he was pretty happy with that. And then he's jumped straight into that contender competition as well. So perfect opportunity to jump in and start yourself with a bit of a base and collect those cards so that next season you're ready to go for maybe that challenger competition. Or even head up to the champion and have a crack at trying to beat us in that champion comp.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just had a report from Mel as well saying that she unfortunately lost the Rugby League round 1. She had a decent score, but it just comes down to that matchup, doesn't it? And that's what I'm still claiming for my demise in round 1 of the Starter Cup. It was just that my opponent had a freak score in round 1 and knocked me out early. But yeah, in saying that, there were some big scores that were knocked out of round 1 as well. I think someone scored about 40 more points than I did, and they lost their head-to-head matchup as well. Okay. So there's a bit of luck involved, obviously, but if you're picking the right players and you're scoring plenty of points, then that's all you can really do. We'll obviously talk a bit about some different rarities for those people keen to get some ideas about which players we might be looking to spend a bit more salary on to maximize their higher ceiling or their likelihood of a bigger output as well. So obviously we can play those gold cards and platinum cards, diamonds if we want in Classic. But we'll talk a little bit about our strategy as well, and we'll reveal our Classic teams at the end of this episode. Dill, should we get straight into the hookers for round 17?
Yeah, let's jump in. And, we talk about each and every week that hooker is a bit of a boring position. There's not a lot of points to be had, and a lot of the ceilings are sort of around that 50 mark. But the last couple of weeks, I guess Brayley and then Grant as well have sort of shown us that there is some ceiling there for hookers. So there's a few options there. The one I like that, look, I am tossing up between Grant and Brayley, but the other one that I like outside of that is actually Tommy Starling. We seem to talk about him each and every week as someone that's just on the outside of our thoughts in terms of that hooker spot, and mainly because Owen Paddy just looms on the bench there and just could be a big factor. But I don't know, Tom Starling just seems to get the job done, gets his tackles in, makes a few meters, and has a little bit of an offload or a short ball there for a forward, and he just racks up those points. If Owen Paddy wasn't there, I feel like Tom Starling would be first on my list each and every week almost, because I feel like he just does that little bit more, offers that little bit more in attack than potentially Brayley does. But for me, looking at the stats and looking at the potential, I think I'm going to run with Harry Grant this week. His opposing hooker, as I said, in Brayley is a really good option, I think, as well. And I think a lot of coaches are probably tossing up those two. We saw Grant return from Origin and from that hammy injury, and he was able to pump out 80 minutes against the Rabbitohs last week and scored 67 GDS points. It did include a try, so it's probably inflated a little bit. He's known for getting in and around the ruck, but not necessarily getting over every time. So that might be a little bit of an inflation. It was his highest score of the season as well. Round 14, we saw Grant score 51 against the Cowboys. So he's starting to get brought more into that 50-ish type range that we like. I don't think any hooker currently is averaging over 50 points across GDS. So the concerning stat still for me is Grant's missed tackle count. He's made 306 tackles across the season so far, but he's missed 35. You compare that to Brayley, who's made almost double the amount of tackles in way more than double in 685, but he's only missed 37. So for me, it's just all about those missed tackles. Grant still missed a combined 9 in the last 2 weeks, which is 27 GDS points that he's sort of left out on the field there that, we could be really handy points, especially in that Classic Cup. So it'll be a nervous watch while Grant goes up against the Sharks, because there are some big boys through the middle there. One in particular that I'll be playing that, are quite hard to tackle, and Grant's known to fall off a few.
Yeah, spot on there. No hookers are averaging over 50. Brayley's obviously the closest there. He's just short, 49.82, and then Harry Grant down there at 44. But both of them have seen some big numbers in the past 2 games at least. What's been really impressive with Blake Brayley is obviously his running game. We talk each week about his high tackle numbers of around that high 50 or high 40s or low 50s number with very few missed tackles. And look, his running meters hadn't been great all season. Lots of 20s and 30s. Since around 10, he went 43, 47, 33, 28. And then all of a sudden, around 15 against the Dragons, a massive 122 running meters. And then he followed it up with a modest 55, but still, his second or third highest run meter total of the season. So there's clearly been something injected into his game, whether that's just him, spotting some lazier markers or him giving some explicit direction there from the coach saying, when you see something small, just pick up and have a go. And that's certainly resulted in a much better fantasy output, not just those running meters, but as a result, he's finding some gaps. He scored his first try of the season and the game just gone. He's breaking tackles, he's offloading, or he's putting blokes through the line as well. So he's really added that extra dimension to his game, which is why a lot of people will be flocking to him this round. But yeah, I really like the upside of Harry Grant as well. If there's one matchup that I'm hesitant to play someone in the middle, it's probably against the Melbourne Storm. They're such a good team right across the park, but they're able to use the ball really effectively. And I don't know how good Brayley might be, with his running game or his tackle breaking or his try scoring ability against someone like the Storm. So I'm a little bit hesitant to play him. And yeah, I really like Harry Grant's upside, and he's certainly showing, playing 80 minutes in that week just gone after Origin, should put some the doubts about his poor hamstring or his injury worries to bed a little bit, to rest a little bit, given he got through 80 minutes and he's ticking along his scores really nicely. The big difference that you alluded to is obviously the missed tackles and the fact that Harry Grant is losing a lot more points as a result. But But the Sharkies have been a bit of a basket case lately. I think the Storm will take full advantage of that. And I think Harry Grant's going to have a big game on the back of that. So I've got Grant just ahead of Brayley. But yeah, look, I'll play Brayley in maybe one or two of my squads just in case he has a nice big score and Grant falls off a few more tackles.
Yep, definitely. There's one name there that we've got on that list that people might not have seen too often, and that's Chris Randall. And probably for good reason. He's sort of come out of his shell and really started to score some points, particularly, playing the 80-minute role that he now has. Last 5 games, he's played sort of 80 minutes, or I think he had a 75-minute in there. And he's increased his average from about 30 points to up to 55 in his last 4 games. So we're starting to see some better output from Chris Randall. And, he could potentially be an option for somebody that just wants to play a little bit of a pod and wants to take a little bit of a risk in probably what we talk about, a sort of boring group of people in terms of the hooker position. So if someone wants to take a bit of a risk, I don't mind Chris Randall at all based on his output at the moment.
So technically not even playing a hooker, given he's, playing on that right edge and getting through 80 minutes. He scored a try in his last 2. You don't even have to play hooker. You just play back rower in your hooker spot, and you don't have to worry about the poison position, as some might say. Beautiful. All right. Tommy Starling. I think he'll be a great pod play for a lot of coaches as well. Middle forwards, mate. We talk about these 3 every single non-Origin affected round. That's Payne Haas, Terrell May, and Isaiah Yeo. You still think that they're lock and loads each week that they're named on the team sheet?
Yeah, definitely. And I couldn't believe last week the conversation happening on Discord around some people fading Payne Haas. Obviously, he had that little bit of a groin niggle. He was cleared to play coming off Origin. He even went off for a little bit and got some strapping onto his leg again, and then went back out. I don't know, about 5-10 minutes later, and then pretty much finished the game and scored a massive 98 or something like that. So, yeah, he just shows an absolute beast, and he just gets through that workload and then has the attacking upside that we love to see. He's breaking tackles, he's breaking the line, he's getting close to scoring tries. So I think then, outside of that, Haas 2.0 in May, I think is just as good, and he's showing us that he deserves to be there each and every week. And then Yo, he has a slow start to the season, but I think he's really solidified himself as the big 3 that we thought he would be, and he continues to just get through his work as well. So I'm more than happy to continue play them each and every week when they are on that team sheet, when they are playing. Obviously then it comes down to sort of one of maybe 4 or 5 players that will make my bench, because I think this week I'm going to look with a bit of upside and go with a 3rd edge on my bench rather than the 5 middles. So I'll be using those 3 middles plus then 1 more. And at the moment, I'm kind of looking at Addin Fonua-Blake based on sort of his, not a new role. We know the role that he has through the middle, but he's starting to get through a few more minutes on the field, and he's just giving a bit more opportunities. He's sort of averaging 60 minutes plus in the last few weeks, which as a result, the last 3 weeks in particular, his average has increased from 54 to 62. And then in particular, it's all from that base stat. So his base stats have gone up, and he's averaging 65 and base and power across those last 3 weeks. So, I think there's a bit better output there from Addin Fonua-Blake compared to some of the other guys potentially in, like someone like Clark or King, Tarpany. I think AFB is showing us that he can really turn his time on the field into some really good output. And he's really not missing too many tackles, and he's not making too many errors as well. So those demerits are really limited. And if he continues to get that 60 plus, I think, he's more than capable of getting into that 70 points in GDS. We've seen it 6 games he's played this season where he's had more than 60 minutes, and he's averaging 69 GDS points across those games. So let's just hope, fingers crossed, he continues with that workload and that minute.
Yeah, I think if the Sharkies are up against sort of any other team than Melbourne, really, I'd be looking a lot closer at him. I just see that matchup with Melbourne, particularly through the middle, being certainly not very advantageous for many middle players from the Sharkies. And I think you got some numbers there. The Storm allowed just 30 or 31 points to those middle forwards, but obviously he's getting some minutes. He's, a player that will run, tackle break, and offload quite frequently. So, I think he's going to certainly score a lot better than 31 points, but that's pretty telling across the whole season when Storm are only giving up sort of that amount to middle forwards. And for me, I've got Aaron Clark just ahead of Fonua-Blake as my 4th middle, just because, look, his minutes on the field are a little bit more assured. We've seen Adam Fanua-Blake play even less than 50 or less than 45 minutes at times, and then all of a sudden he's been back to his 60 and 65. There's been no real consistency or rhyme or reason for those minutes. And look, if the Sharkies are getting done by a lot, they're probably not going to force him to go back on the field and try to clutch up a victory or something with plenty of runs and offloads. So in a matchup with the Storm, I just see a bit of an easier way to just sit him and play someone like Aaron Clark, who will get through the minutes, who will get through plenty of work. He's been outstanding for the Warriors. Some people are saying that he's probably the buy of the season, and he's certainly not far from that as well. So he hasn't gone below 50 since round 2, and I think it's just the security that I know he's going to provide. I know the Broncos are a really good matchup there. Defensively in the middle as well, but that just means Clark's going to get through plenty of tackles and hopefully plenty of run meters, as well as one of those lead forwards there. I'd love to play Tarpanay, but it's just so hard to play him with his lack of minutes. He's certainly got that try scoring upside. We saw that on the weekend where he posted over 70 points with the try, but look, if he's not scoring a try, he's got to get through a lot of work in those 50 or even high 40 minutes as well. It's just not really there for him at the moment, which is quite strange. The Raiders look so much better when he's on the field, particularly in those close matches as well. They need him far more often. So, he's someone just on the periphery as well. But just those minutes are a bit of a head scratcher. He's not on the field enough. So I'm just going to go someone safe in Aaron Clark and I hope Fanua-Blake doesn't get too many attacking stats there against the Storm.
Yeah, and for me, the interesting thing I think is in particular the attacking stats of both Tarpanay and Adam Fanua-Blake. They're both on 4 tries, which is the most of any forward, along with Connor Watson, who not really a middle forward, but those two are leading the tries. It sort of across in 3, 4, 5, 6. You've got a whole range of different players that have crossed the line and for 3 tries throughout the season. It's a bit of a mixed bunch. So I don't think the tries necessarily are coming to the middle forwards as we kind of have seen in the past. Adam Fanua-Blake's 11 or 12 that he had 2 years ago and then 10 last year. So I don't know if we're going to get that. So I think, someone like Aaron Clark's a great play. He's pretty much been going for a point a minute or even slightly above a point a minute. And especially with the makeup of the Warriors at the moment, and a lot of young blokes there in that middle forward rotation or even across the park in their rotation, I think Aaron Clark, like you said, has really stood up and he's taken, a lead role and a leadership role there now that Barnett's gone for the season. Tohu Harris has gone for the season, or retired. So I think Clarkie's really stepped up and I think it's a really safe play. I guess it potentially will be a pivot for me. It'll just come down to whether I think that Storm and Sharks game is going to be really tight and it's going to be played through the middle, which I kind of think it will be. And it's kind of a double-edged sword. If Fanua-Blake goes well, then potentially Harry Grant has a bit of a poor game because Fanua-Blake's run over the top of him. But I think I might go that way. Maybe that's a good hedge and go one of them's going to play well out of the two of them. So, I'm sticking with those at the moment. But I could see a world where Aaron Clark makes majority of my other teams and even Tarpany to an extent as well. He's sort of sitting around that 50-ish points for base and power. So, it's pretty decent considering he's getting about 52 minutes on the park. He's sort of using that time on the field quite wisely. It would be great to see him hit that sort of 60-ish mark that we know he's got it in him. We've seen it in the past. It's just that rotation, obviously, that Sticky's going with is a little bit different. But for me at the moment, Adam Fanua-Blake just over Clark. So it's good to see we've got a couple of differences.
Yeah, that Fanua-Blake run where he runs over the top of Harry Grant would be a net gain of 0. You get the 3 points for the tackle break. You'd lose 3 for the missed tackle. Net gain of 0 there. So, you want him to break tackles. You just don't want Harry Grant to be involved when he's breaking those tackles. Sounds like you're going to be playing an extra edge on the bench again this round. I think Keon Koloamatangi is probably going to be one of the most heavily played edges or even players in the entire competition. We saw just how strong and how much of a machine he was. We presumed he was going to be out for up to 4 to 6 weeks or something with that facial fracture, but he gets back on the park without missing a game. Absolutely incredible stuff. He's an absolute lock for me in that edge back row spot. And I think you are pretty keen on Jacob Preston. I'm playing Preston this week I think the Dogs, coming off that bye, still have a pretty good matchup there against the Panthers. Obviously, they've been a little bit better in recent weeks. They had a nice win last week without their Origin players, and they're all back now. So it's last year's premiers or the 4-time premiers versus the top of the competition or the second best team in the competition behind the milk, of course. So it looks like a tough matchup on paper, but I think that's where someone like Jacob Preston can go really well with plenty of base, plenty of tackles, plenty of runs. But these are the sorts of games where the edge back rowers get involved in a lot of the tries. Or even some creative stats as well. So he's been amazing. He's been a lot better sort of on the left-hand side when Viliame Kikau was out, but moving back to the right won't change too much. He's one of the best attacking weapons in the competition in terms of an edge player. And I think they're going to want to go left against or opposing. Sorry, they're going to go right, opposing the Panthers left in Blaze Talangi there, and take advantage in maybe Preston running over the top of the smaller body in Talangi, and I think that's where Preston might capitalize on things. Are you leaning Preston as well?
Yeah, and pretty much the same reason you talked about. With that left side defense of the Panthers, they have been allowing 46.8 GDS points to all right side edges in the comp. Which is fourth highest average across that position across the competition. So there's definitely some upside there for Preston, and I think he sort of makes his own upside to an extent as well. He's got really good attacking now, so he can sniff out a try, whether it's a short ball or whether he's chasing through a kick, and we've seen that plenty of times. And he really is hungry to get the ball in his hands and try and get over the line. And then on top of that, he's averaging 55 in base and power this season from 79, 80 minutes on the field, which is some unreal work from an edge forward. So I think for me, it's just a no-brainer that we get Preston into our lineups, and he could potentially be a pod. People look at that matchup and they look at the Panthers, and we've asked so many times this season, are the Panthers actually back now? And like you said, they went up against a potential premiership team in the Warriors last week and dusted them, at home without 5 of their Origin stars. So they get back 5 of the potentially best players in the competition, and they could run riot on the Bulldogs, and we might say, yep, it's back to the Panthers being the dominant selves. But I think the Bulldogs will have a little bit more to say in that, and I think maybe on the back of Jacob Preston, there might be some big scores there for that Bulldogs versus Panthers game. So yeah, I think for me, I'll be running Kalongmatangi for sure. I'll be running Preston, and then it comes down to the third spot, and I actually haven't made a decision. I put one in just for the purpose of the pod tonight and making sure that I've got a full team. But for me, it's Ali Katoa or Dylan Lucas. And look, breaking down the stats and having a look through today, they're almost identical in their potential output for this week. The difference, I guess, is if you look at purely just their averages this season, Lucas is averaging 60, whereas Katoa is only averaging about 49. And so you see him a lot lower on that list. But in terms of base and power, it's where Lucas sort of shines a little bit more. He's nudging out Katoa there. He's scoring 58 GDS points in base and power, whereas Katoa is only averaging 50. But it's the attack that I like from Katoa. He's had 5 tries, 2 try assists, and 3 line breaks. But Lucas, on the other hand, 5 tries, 1 try assist, and 7 line breaks. So both of them are really similar in that aspect. In terms of the way that the game might pan out, Katoa lining up against Britton Nickera, and he misses 3 tackles per game, whereas Lucas lining up against Zach Hosking, he's only missing 1 tackle per game. So again, slightly leaning towards Katoa for that reason. And then I guess the big question mark is Fletcher Sharp and what his absence does to Lucas's output. We've seen it one time this season, and Lucas scored 70. So it's probably not, a true indication of the opportunity that Lucas has or doesn't have with Fletcher Sharp, who was one of the best halves, I think, throughout most of the season. And the connection that he and Lucas had, I think, might go missing in this game. So I think from there, I'm kind of leaning Katoa, but I'm happy to hear all sides of this argument to make a final decision.
Yeah, it's interesting about Dill Lucas. Obviously, on the surface, it looks like the Fletcher Sharp omission is going to be, quite detrimental to Lucas, but it also means that he doesn't have a half inside him that is running the ball as frequently as he was. Obviously, he would run a lot and almost create some space for Lucas as a result, or get through the line and pass to Lucas or that sort of thing. But you'd expect maybe the half to sort of dish the ball off to Lucas a little bit more now, because They won't have the running game like Fletcher Sharp certainly had. So it could work in an advantageous way for Dill Lucas, where he gets through a bit more work with ball in hand. But yeah, probably not the upside for attacking stats with someone as creative as Sharp, who probably drew in a few extra defenders as well, which might have given Lucas a bit more time and space. So it'd be interesting to see how things play out. But it wouldn't surprise me to see maybe Lucas's run numbers go up as a result of maybe getting a little bit more footy. I do like the Eli Katoa play there against the Sharkies. So Eli Katoa will be lining up on the right with Jerome Hughes, and they'll actually be matched up against Trindle, Wilton, and Sifa Talakai there. And I can see that being quite advantageous there for the Storm and the side that they're going to go as well. Wilton averages 3 missed tackles, just like Britain Nickera, so the same sort of weakness on both sides of the field. But Sifa Talakai has played a lot of matches off the bench so far this season and in limited minutes, and he's had to come back to the centre spot there, and he's certainly not noted for his defence or, and I think he's going to find it really difficult to contain that right side of the field as a centre. I know he's not, matching up on Eli Katoa one-on-one, but Eli Katoa's got a pretty nice matchup there in Trindle, Wilton, Sifa Talakai, that right side of the field. So I'm not playing Hughes as a bit of a sneak peek to the halves section, but a way to sort of hedge and overcome not playing Hughes is to look at Eli Katoa as well. So even though the averages might not necessarily say that Katoa is the best player over Lucas, I think he's got a bit more upside there, where the base is fairly similar, but maybe a bit more opportunity for some creative work or some attack. Katoa scored 2 doubles last season, and he's only scored 5 tries through about his 12 or 13 games so far. So I expect, maybe some positive regression with some try scoring, and he's probably not far away from a double, and it could come as early as this week. So I'm backing him in for a bit of meat, and fairly confident plugging him in as my third edge.
Yeah, the Talakai stat is interesting. Playing in centres, he hasn't really done that a lot for the last couple of seasons, but 2024, he played about 5 games at centre, missed an average of 3.5 tackles. And then 2023, where we sort of saw him as a full season centre, he was missing 2.5 to 3 tackles per game. So again, there's some definite opportunity there. And he's sort of playing out of position, and defensively his reads are probably not up to scratch like they were in the past, or probably not even really up to scratch in the past either, playing that centre role. And again, that combination is quite new and quite different with Wilton inside as well. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunity there. And Katoa's really good. We talk about, Britain Nickera being one of the best line runners or hole runners in the competition. I think Eli Katoa is probably a little bit undersold there. I think he's pretty good as well in running that line, and whether it's short or whether he bounces out and runs that line outside. I think and especially coming off Hughes at the moment, Hughes is looking in good touch again, which is great to see for both a fantasy perspective and as well as a GDS and NRL perspective, I should say. So yeah, I think Katoa, they're very close for me, but it might just come down to how I'm feeling come tomorrow or Saturday, Friday or Saturday, and make that change and get that in the squad. I'll just see how I go. And if anyone's got any other stats to try and help me make that decision, that'd be great. If you could just forward them along to me over on the Discord, that'd be wonderful.
Love it. All right, Dill, I got a hypothetical for you. You turn on the TV tomorrow night, 10 minutes before kickoff, you see Nathan Cleary with a massive white strapping or bandage around that troublesome quad and groin. He doesn't have the kicking tee. He's looking a little bit ginger, putting boot to ball in the warm-up. He's still named in the team sheet. He's still obviously going to run out. Is there any way that you can fade him and not play him in your halves position?
I think there is. I think if that hypothetical does occur and he's heavily bandaged, he's not looking quite up to scratch, and he's definitely not kicking, I think there's a potential to fade him. There is one player that you touched on before and that I talked about there in Jerome Hughes, who I'm not playing currently, but I think he's got some really good upside. So I think for me, that would sort of solidify that move from Cleary to Hughes, if that was the case. Look, all reports are that he's feeling good and ready to go. And I feel like maybe he's being pushed a little bit as well based on where the Panthers are sort of sitting. And they talked about last week sort of being season defining for the Panthers, moving up into the 8 after the horrible start that they had. And maybe Cleary coming back a little bit earlier than maybe he should be might be an indication that they really need to win this game and win well against the Dogs. So yeah, I'll be keeping all eyes on that TV half an hour, 45 minutes before kickoff for sure.
Yeah, look, you'd have to be pretty brave to take him out of your team if he is named to start. Obviously, yeah, with the strapping around the quad and the groin or whatever the injury is, could be a bit of a curveball for some people there. But look, if he's running out, we know that he's such a good accumulator of points. They're probably not going to play him after that win last week. They know he's got another game of State of Origin just around the corner as well. It probably is a game that, look, they're table-topping dogs. It's not a certainty of a win anyway, even if he is playing. So, there's every possibility that they could rest him, make him play State of Origin and have a really, strong run home. That win last week was obviously very important. It would be a much different story if they had lost that again last week. But look, it'd be an absolutely big, massive anti-pod play for anyone who left them out of their lineup with him taking the field. And we've seen it before. There's every chance that he could, succumb to an injury early and you're stuck with a teen sort of score or a low 20s. But, he's someone who can look to be hampered or look to have a really tough matchup and then come out with an absolute blinder, man of the match performance. 2 tries and a try assist, a 70 or an 80-point score. He's done it time and time again. For me, if he's running out there in that number 7 jersey, despite the quad strapping, I don't know if I can ever take him out of a team, particularly not my challenger team, which is my number one, my most precious team. Maybe a starter or a sort of a Classic Cup team when there's other good options like you mentioned in Jerome Hughes. But boy, oh boy, you'd hate to take him out of your team and then him to have one of those matches, which he's done time and time again, and you're sitting there spewing it's game 1 of the round and you're already without his 70 or 80-point score.
The whole weekend's over if that happens. Look, it is interesting. Brad Snyder's name's on the bench in the 14 jersey.
Yeah.
So that sort of tells me that maybe Cleary's not 100% and or he might not even play a full game depending on what happens there. So I don't see sort of much else outside of that scenario where Brad Snyder just comes on and plays in the halves. I wouldn't expect him to come on and play a sort of a lock role or a floating middle type role. So yeah, that's interesting to see. I guess it sort of in the next half hour as well, that the 24-hour mail will come through and we'll maybe have a better idea based on who's cut as well from the side and see what that looks like. But yeah, if I do fade him because of the heavily hampered injury, I'll be watching that game through my fingers for sure, hands over eyes. And yeah, in fact, I might not even watch the game. I might just watch it on replay, depending on what happens. I don't know if I could sit through it all. But outside of that, I think most coaches are also going to follow in the footsteps of where I'm sort of heading in terms of Izzy Katoa and probably Fogarty. I think those 2 players are probably the safe plays. Again, Izzy Katoa just seems to be on another level at the moment. He's been in some unreal form. Look, take away last week's game, he still had a really good game, but obviously that was a bit of an upset there from the Knights. But Izzy's still averaging 450 kicking meters, 113 running meters, 23 tackles per game. That's a 48-point base there. Plus he's averaging a try assist per game and more than 1 line break assist every 2 games. So he's got plenty of attacking stats as well. And we haven't seen him cross the line too much, but he definitely has that opportunity. He has a really great matchup this week against the Rabbitohs, and I think we've sort of talked about some potential options there, or we will talk about some options a little bit later on as well about targeting some weak Rabbitohs defence in certain areas of the park. And I think this is one here. They allow 55.6 GDS points to left halves, which is more than any other team in the competition. So Izzy Katoa, not only does he have that great base, he's got a really good opportunity to score big against a Rabbitohs team that sort of hot and cold. They had a great game last week, but they can certainly go to sleep and let another team put plenty of points on them.
Yeah, most kick meters in the comp for halfbacks, most meters gained. Also, the most tackles, if you exclude Kurt Donahue, who's obviously not playing in the half, so it's a bit skewed there. But those are some really incredible base numbers. Here's also another big stat. The players that out-average him are Nathan Cleary, Fogarty, Luke Metcalf, and Jaden Campbell. Their goals kicked this season are 40, 53, 41, and 33. Remember those numbers? Adam Reynolds is a spot below him on averages with 51 goals. Nicho Hines with 48 goals below him. In the middle there is Izzy Katoa, 0 goals. He's obviously not goal kicking, but he's still out averaging Adam Reynolds, Nicho Hines, and Jaden Campbell, who out averages him by a point, has kicked 33 goals to his 0. So he's obviously getting it done across the park in a number of different areas. And he's still only scored 1 try as well. Nathan Cleary scored 1 try, but even Fogarty has scored more. Metcalf, 8. Campbell, 4. Reynolds, 3. So there's plenty of room even for some improvement, which is, pretty crazy to think about, that he has got that sort of game that can see him cross the try line. But yeah, absolute star. The Finns will be licking their wounds from last week. That was, really nice sort of game there by the Knights. But, Finns were red hot, and I want to get back to winning ways pretty quickly, and he'll be a big reason why. It's I feel like this week, there's a lot of question marks over a few of those halves that we would normally consider in Lukey Metcalf. Tough match up there with the Bronx. He's also got that niggling injury. Whether he takes the field or not, still remains to be seen. So he's an easy one to sort of look past this week, despite being, one of the form halfbacks over the last few matches.
Yeah, definitely.
Even Nicho Hines, really tough match up there with the Storm we've spoken about a lot, but he looks a bit of a shadow of his former self, really. Yeah, he scored a try in the week just gone, and he's still sort of getting it done in a few areas, but he's, still just above the 50-point average, and that average is slowly coming down, each and every week. There should be a resurgence at some point from Nicho Hines. He's a lot better than he has shown, but there's another player that I'm looking pretty easy to look past him this round, and that leaves me with Cleary, Izzy Katoa, and Jamal Fogarty, who has had that bit of a niggle, bit of a complaint. He didn't kick goals a couple of weeks back as a result, but look, he's still kicking plenty of meters. He's making plenty of tackles. The Raiders are a form team in the competition at the moment, and they're scoring plenty of points. So that means he's obviously involved in some of that the creation of those points, but then also going up in threes as well when they're kicking goals. And the Knights had a really good win last week, but they might come crashing back down to earth, and I think the Raiders will get the job done at home, even without Hutto Young there. But I think there's still plenty of base points in there for Fogarty, and obviously the kick meters and the goal kicking make him a pretty safe play for me.
Yeah, and just a little bit of a fun fact about Fogarty. Last season, round 1, Fogarty up against the Knights, he kicked for 800 meters in play. So if we get anywhere close to that again, we should be licking our lips for sure. Yeah, and then look, for me, I'm the same. I'm going Izzy Katoa, I'm going Fogarty. There's just 2 players that I really like the look of, and I will definitely get them into other competitions, but in terms of classic, I think I'll just stick with those 2 for the safety, and to bank my points and move on. But the 2 players that I think I'll hedge across different competitions. Hughes, we've already talked about a bit. I think he's got a really good opportunity. The Sharks allow 48.5 points to right halves there, so there's a really good opportunity for him to go well. And I think if Ali Katoa goes well, I think Hughes has to go well to an extent. So, if we're banking on Ali Katoa having a good game, then I think we can bank on Hughes potentially having a good game as well. The other player that I don't mind, he's not there, but I wouldn't mind having a bit more of a stake in the Man versus Tigers game, and looking at someone like DCE. The question marks are over the connections and what that's going to look like on the right side of the field. Obviously, Olakuatu is out. Garrick has moved out to the wing. Tommy Turbo comes in at centre. So there's a bit of a change of personnel in terms of where they're playing and how they're going to gel and what that's going to look like. But I feel like there's a really good opportunity for DCE to have a good game. We've talked about it the last few weeks, dropped from Origin. He's got a lot to prove. He's sort of in and around the contract, negotiations and all those things that are going on there. And he just wants to show that he's still there to play well and to, get Manly through to a final series by the end of this year. So I don't mind DC in this. I guess, the question marks are over Turbo slotting in at centre and what that looks like for the rest of the team and how that plays out. So I think I'll keep an eye on it this week, but I might play him in just maybe a starter just to see how he goes. And maybe, if they have a big game up against the Tigers, who we know can let in a lot of points, but they can also score a few themselves. I think that should be a massive game for Manly and for the Tigers.
Yeah, it looks like a bit of a last sort of roll of the dice there for Manly with so many changes to their starting 13. A number of players dropped as well or put on notice, and Cherry Evans without the noise around Origin anymore. So yeah, I think it's probably a good thing for Manly that they've made all of these changes. And I think that's going to be pretty advantageous there for Cherry Evans to go big as well. Looks like we've got Sif Kanga finally in the house, mate. We were almost going to send out a bit of a search party. You weren't here saying that you were getting rowdy at the start of the show, but glad that you have joined us, mate. Wouldn't be a Fantasy Bros show without you there in the chat. I do have to ask, though, is your caps lock button broken? Let us know. And I mean, we love the energy.
Never miss him. That's what it is. We never miss him, and we know that he's yelling out who he's playing and what's happening. He looks like he's going with Hughes, Katoa, and either Fogs or Cleary. So he is keen on fading Cleary potentially. I love it. I love people that are keen to fade a big name and look for some potential pod elsewhere. I do love that indeed. Alrighty, let's jump down to the centre position. And look, I feel like we're going to get a little bit boring with centre this week. There's probably three names that are the big ones for me, and Farnworth is just Mr. Reliable. I don't think we need to speak about Herbie at all. He does everything we need him to do and more. And he does it no matter what the opposition, who the opposition is, or what the data suggests he should be scoring. So I think Farnworth for me is just an easy plug and play up against the Rabbits as well. Plenty of opportunity to score big. 45.3 the Rabbits allow to the left centre side. So definitely opportunity there. And I guess it comes down to that argument between Garrick and Holmes. For me, I'm slightly leaning Holmes up against the Eels. That again, the question marks are over Garrick playing on the wing up against the Tigers, who actually limit the right wing, which I'm assuming Garrick is going to line up on the right wing. They limit right wingers to only 26.9 GDS points this season, so it's pretty low. And I guess the upside to Garrick is his ability to break tackles versus his ability to limit his missed tackles, and so his tackle break to missed tackle ratio when he's playing on the wing is 5-1. So he's getting a net score there of at least 12 points plus, which is really great to see. Whereas someone like Holmes, he's really struggling sometimes to get that sort of tackle break ability higher than his missed tackles. He's sort of averaging around 3 to 2. So he's only really getting that net score of about 3 points. He's losing so many points through his missed tackles that we're just not seeing enough upside from Holmes with that tackle breaks. I guess both players kick goals, so that sort of put a line through that stat in terms of matching them up. So for me, it's just purely based on that match stat of the Eagles allowing 45.7 to left centres. Whereas the Tigers, as I said, 27 points to right wingers. So I think I'm going to lean towards Val Holmes and hope that he breaks more tackles than he misses.
Yeah, for me, I think we know what we're going to get from Val Holmes. He obviously does have a lot of attacking upside. He can score as well as create plenty of points himself. But we do know that he is prone to a number of errors and a number of missed tackles as well. What I like about the Garrick play over him this week is just a bit of the uncertainty around what is actually going to happen to not only Manly, but him personally and his GDS score as well. I think the move to the wing could be quite fortuitous, but mostly because of the man inside him, and that's obviously Tommy Turbo. Manly have made a big decision here. It looks like, for the foreseeable future, Turbo will be playing on that right centre spot with Saab dropped and Garrick playing on the right wing with Lehigh Hopewadi at fullback. To me, that sort of says that, they weren't really confident with Turbo at fullback, running both sides of the fields, doing plenty of talk in defence and that sort of thing as well. He just got one sort of key focus, and that's playing there at right centre. And I think that's going to do a couple of things, particularly for Garrick. It's probably going to draw in a number of defenders, on Tommy, knowing just how dangerous he can be in that position. And Tommy's, got a great sort of little tap on getting the ball out to the winger very early. He's not really that selfish show and go type player. He can tap the ball on or promote the footy pretty well. So if the opposition defence want to sort of compress in a little bit, that's obviously going to leave plenty of space there for Garrick. And I can see plenty of upside there for Garrick being outside. Obviously, Cherry Evans, Haumole Olaquatu is in there at the moment, which would obviously make things far more interesting. Yeah. But I'm really eager to see what does happen. It is a bit of an unknown. We haven't really got any data to suggest how Garrick plays on the wing with Tommy Turbo at centre. Every time Garrick has played on the wing, it's been with Turbo either at fullback or Turbo out of the team entirely. But look, we know that Garrick will kick plenty of goals. I think he'll have a bit of attacking upside there outside Tommy Turbo. Even if Turbo's sort of 80% fit or 90% fit, it'd be amazing if he was 100% fit, because that would just be, a gold mine there for Ruben Garrick. But yeah, I can see it being pretty promising. And although Garrick won't have the same amount of tackle numbers that he has had in the past in the centres, I think his run meters will be up a lot. He's played plenty of fullbacks, so done a lot of kick returns in the past anyway. So he's going to get a lot more running meters. And as a result of that, maybe some more tackle breaks. And he's on the end of the back line. We've seen Jason Saab score plenty of tries this season. So I think, his try scoring opportunity will rise as well. So yeah, for me, it's a bit more of the unknown. We know what we're going to get from Val. It could be pretty poor. But look, if Manly and Garrick kill it this week, I think everyone will flock to him next week. But I think I might just try to get ahead of a few that just want to see how things play out first. And it might be a little bit of a risk going him. It could backfire a little bit, but I like some of the potential upside, given that we don't really have any data to tell us what's likely to happen.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make, particularly around that sort of the pairing of Garrick and Turbo together, which we haven't seen before. Like you said, when Turbo has played with Garrick on the wing, it's usually Turbo at fullback. But during those games where Garrick did play on the wing between 2019 and 2023, they played 5 times together, particularly against the Tigers. And Garrick averaged 46 fantasy points during those times. He averaged 5 goals and 1 try every 2 games. So I think there's definitely an opportunity there, albeit, like you said, Garrick did play on the left and he's moved over to the right. Look, an interesting stat as well. I don't know how much to read into it. The Eels have certainly got a little bit better than the start of the season, but in round 5, Val Holmes 54 against the Eels back then, where their defensive woes were a little bit worse. They obviously have improved a little bit, but at least we know, like you said, what we're getting from Val Holmes. The interesting one that Sif Kanga has put to us is he's going to play Farnworth and Purdue. We've obviously seen Purdue playing in the halves a little bit, but he's moved back to that centre spot. Do you think the move back to the centre spot is advantageous for someone like Purdue, or do you think he was a better option when he was playing in the halves for the Cowboys?
No, absolutely. Centre is his position, and just need to look at his numbers to see proof of that. In the halves, his scores were way down, apart from one game there against the Tigers in round 13. But other than that, yeah, his scores at centre had been fantastic. He had plenty of matches above 50 points and a couple above 60 and even 70 as well. I think the reason for that is, he has a bit more time and space with the ball in hand, rather than having to sort of get it early and then make a decision. He's just a bit better as a runner out a little bit wider at the moment with his speed. I think he'll make a really good half eventually, but for now, what's working is him playing at centre there, with Clifford sort of doing a lot of just sort of steering the team around and giving the ball to Drinkwater, Dearden and Purdue in some really good positions, has just been really advantageous there for him playing at centre. So yeah, I like the move for him back to centre. I think it opens up the game for Drinkwater a lot more as well, given that he should get some better opportunity on both sides of the field too. So I can't play Purdue this week, but yeah, those numbers when he plays at centre are much better than when he plays at 5'8", which is quite bizarre really to think about. He's close to the ball and getting the ball in his hands a lot more, but his numbers were way down. So Sif Kanga, despite the caps lock issue, that Purdue play is pretty enticing. Also, my man, dinner date, well done. Hope it was good, mate. Caps lock key is locked. Yeah, there might be a light on it, which indicates that it is locked. But if you just tap it once more, that actually unlocks mine as well. So give that a whirl. If it doesn't work, I'm out of ideas, but I know you're not yellow, mate. I love the energy. I love the passion. And how good's that Purdue play? You can come back and laugh at us next week for not playing him. I love it, mate. Well done.
I like it. And just let everyone else know we are not the IT bros, so we will not help you with any other IT issues. Turn it off and turn it back on is generally my approach to that. And if not, just throw it and get a new one. So yeah, come here for your fantasy expertise, but maybe not the IT. Melissa has asked, just before we move to the wingers, what our bench is going to look like this week. So we talked before about our forwards. We're looking at running the 4 middles and then the 3 edges. And I think that's going to be pretty consistent across all of my competitions there. And then I'm definitely looking at the 3 fullbacks this week. I think there's plenty of upside in our fullbacks. So I think we're going to run with that. And I think you're pretty much the same boat as that, are you, Stu?
Yeah, really good opportunity for some high-scoring fullbacks with really good matchups. When we get to fullback shortly, we'll talk about the plethora of options there. There have been times where we consider, a centre or a winger on the bench as well. But when we've got some really high-scoring fullbacks with good matchups, you got to take advantage of that, I think.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's jump into wingers. And once again, we've got a decent number of wingers and some really elite wingers that we can pick. Obviously, the big news is Fletcher Sharp potentially out for the season. It's not confirmed yet, but I did read NRL physios sort of said that there's a really good chance that we won't see him for the rest of the season. So it's really unfortunate news. And obviously, it was quite a serious injury, and we're hoping that everything's going well with Fletcher Sharp and he's on the mend and he looks after himself, so we can see him once again in the NRL. But that kind of opens up our wing spot quite a bit now, and there's plenty of options. I'm going to stick with 2 blokes that I think I'm picking for safety over anything else, and that's Lomax and Carraz. And I think I'm picking them for very similar reasons, and it's just down to their floor and what they offer. For with that floor in terms of the base and power, Lomax is averaging 200 meters per game with ball in hand, which is absolutely ridiculous. 7 tackles, 4 tackle breaks, and then 3 goals per game as well. And he's sort of getting a base and power of around 48 to 50 per game, which is perfect for that wing spot, especially when it's so volatile. And then Carraz on the other side, 186 meters, 5 tackles, 6 tackle breaks though. So his base and power is a little bit lower, but we know then Carraz has a greater opportunity with an attacking stat, particularly the way the Bulldogs are playing at the moment, and they're just running riot on most teams. So I think for me, the safe play is those 2. The one that I'm currently nervous about that I'm fading is Hopewade. I faded him a couple of weeks ago when he had that 5-minute stint with the HIA, and I was really nervous about that, but obviously was rewarded with a risky play for obvious reasons. But again, I'm nervous doing it twice now that he's back, and he's back at the fullback role, and off the concussion protocol, he's obviously fit. No lingering effects, so. I'm really nervous about how he goes. He has been averaging 52.5 GDS points when playing at fullback this season as well. So there's definitely an opportunity where that could be a really good sign. That score is without his round 14 score, obviously, as well. I think he got -2 in that game because he dropped the ball when he tried to score, so he made an error in that game. So yeah, I'm just really nervous about not playing Hopewade at the moment, and so I think that I might run into a little bit of trouble if Carraz or Lomax has a poor game and Hopper has a big one.
Yeah, both absolute, stat padding beasts in Carraz and Lomax there. They'll get through plenty of run meters, plenty of tackle breaks, offloads, and obviously the upside there with Lomax kicking some goals. But look, we lose Fletcher Sharp. Yeah, that horrific injury likened to almost a car crash there with the spleen and the kidney. Long recovery ahead for him. Hopefully we do get to see him again this season. But look, we lose one sort of out of position gun, obviously, as a winger playing in the halves in real life, but we get gifted another one, and that's that man Lehigh Hopewade, who I'm pretty big on this week. That match against the Knights, that 5-minute where he, if he had scored the try, beauty. There's an extra, 10 or 12 points, but it went down as an error and a minus score. But look, other than that, he had 2 back-to-back 70-point games playing at fullback. And that was without Tommy Turbo in the team. I think, Manly improved a little bit there with Turbo in the center. And Hopewade was just a beast in those 2 matches. Incredible display of run meters, but also the ability to break tackles and put his men into space as well. So I'm really eager to see what that Manly team looks like there with Turbo at the center. And what the future for Lehigh Hopewade might look like. So, yeah, again, it's sort of the unknown. We've seen that the 2 sort of sample matches for a full 80 minutes and the 70 points, just incredible, similar to what Fletcher Sharp was doing on a weekly basis. So we lose him, but we get another out of position beast, and that obviously means that I have to overlook one of Carraz and Lomax. The numbers sort of point to playing Lomax, but I just see so much upside in Carraz with his offloads. I think he got 6 or 7 in 1 week, and he just looks to promote the ball almost every single time he gets into contact. If he gets spun slightly and faces his team in any sort of direction, he tries to get that arm free and pop it out the back, which is just absolute gold for fantasy. And it's obviously going to be probably a pretty tight, grinding affair there with Penrith tomorrow night. But that's sort of where he gets involved a lot more with his sort of run meters, not just off the first sort of off the kick return, but sometimes on tackle 3 or 4 as well, when some of the middles are a bit tired or retreating as well. And he's obviously on the end of a pretty strong back line there as well. So he's in there at the moment. He won't be in all 4 of my sides. I think there'll be a spread of Kiraz, Lomax, Hopewadi, and maybe a Zarko play or 2 as well. But yeah, I think those 4 names are probably the big names of the round. But yeah, particularly Kiraz, Lomax, and Hopewadi for me.
Yeah, nice. And yeah, like you said, I think end of the day, we're always going to hedge a few players across each of the competitions as well. And no doubt I'll have Hopewadi in there somewhere. Look, yeah. Mel's asked a question, and thoughts on Anderson. I'm assuming Grant Anderson this week. He is listed as a winger, playing in the centres for the Storm up against the Sharks. Just looking at his stats, he scored 10 tries, he had 3 try assists, 13 line breaks, 4 line break assists, and 28 tackle breaks. So on paper, it looks like some decent numbers. I guess for me, the thing is we've just got so many good options there. We haven't even talked about To'o. Tuolangi's, starting to find some form again, and you just touched on Azarko there, who seems to be going to another level again this season, particularly the way that the Dolphins are playing at the moment. What was it, 150 points in 3 games or something like that they racked up against the opposition. So yeah, for me, I'm just not looking at someone like Anderson. I'm going to stick with those high floor and potential upside in terms of attacking stats. And although Anderson offers that at times, the other thing I think that's important to note is the Sharks are pretty good at limiting that left centre spot to about 35 GDS points. So probably doesn't quite have the upside that I'd be looking for in a position where it's very volatile. I think we saw what did Ronaldo Mulitalo score on the weekend, about 7 or 8 just gone. So, the winger spot is very volatile. And I think Kiraz, Lomax, and then to an extent Hopewadi and To'o definitely offer that safe floor with the attacking upside.
Yeah, Anderson, 6 games in the centres, 6 games on the wing. He scored 8 tries when lining up there on the wing, and just the 2 playing at centre. So his upside is on the wing, on the end of that, really dominant Storm backline. He gets through a little bit more base, obviously, in the centres, but his try scoring record goes way down. So yeah, for me, too many low scores there, in the 20s or the low 30s, and he's probably got an eye on next year. I think he's signed for the Bronx, hasn't he? Pretty good.
Yeah, was that announced today? I think that was announced today. He's officially assigned with the Broncos, so good on him.
Yeah, so Bellamy might be dirty about that and look to get someone else in that spot eventually. Who knows? But yeah, we've got a few good options there in the wingers. But look, hey, you can win competitions each week by 1 or 2 pods. And if you're back in, the Storm and Grant Anderson in for a big game, he's obviously scored a hat-trick in 1 match already this season. There's no reason why he can't have another big one. Yeah, just not for me this week, particularly when we've got so many good fullback options. And it's not just fullback options because of their names. It's also because of their matchups. We've got, Latrell, Pappy, Hammer, Scotty Drinkwater with some really nice matchups on paper. And I think you're going to be playing 3 of those 4 names I mentioned. Is that right, Dill?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. I think for me, it's going to be lock and load for Pappy, Latrell, and Hammer. Hammer in particular is probably the man of the week for me in the fullback position. Up against the Rabbitohs, they allow 56.7 to fullbacks, which is the most in the competition in terms of that fullback position. So it also bodes well that, for Hammer, the Dolphins came off that loss against the Knights, and they'll really be looking to bounce back. And I think Hammer's going to have a big say in that, exerting his dominance there. The thing I don't necessarily like is playing both Mitchell and Hammer against each other. You've really got to hope that it's going to be a high-scoring game. But digging a little bit deeper, I found that in the last 5 games at Suncorp, both Latrell and Hammer have scored 5 and 8 tries respectively. So 13 tries between them in the last five games that they've played against any opposition at Suncorp. So they do like a try at Suncorp. Hopefully it'll be some nice weather. There's meant to be a little bit of rain around, but hopefully that stays away for both that Warriors game and then the 7 o'clock game or the 7:30 game, that Dolphins Rabbits. So yeah, let's hope it's a high scoring affair and both fullbacks take control of both their teams and score a heap of points off the back of that. And then that third player is Ryan Papenhuyzen up against the Sharks. We've talked about the potential massive game for the Storm up against the Sharks there. The Sharks allow 41.8, which is a little bit on the lower side. But if we looked at someone like Ponga, Edwards, the teams that they're coming up against, they're like allowing sort of 35, 32 to fullback. So there's upside there for Pappy. And we know that Pappy can score a point on any blade of grass on that field. And he always seems to pop up when he's needed to cross the line at the end of a great play or to set someone up and then, finish it off as well with a goal. So I think Papenhuyzen is just a lock and load. And they are the three top averaging fullbacks that are available this season outside of Teddy, who's obviously on the bye. So I think they'll be pretty popular, but I'm happy to take that and potentially use a bit of salary cap, particularly in the Classic Comp, to put some salary on their names and potentially get a bit of a high score and make that a pod through the use of a higher rarity.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Those three are the standouts this round as well, particularly if we just look at some numbers from oppositions, from players that played against their oppositions last week. Reece Walsh against the Sharks, 60 points without a try, obviously doesn't have the goal kicking duties. So that's a really nice score there when Papenhuyzen obviously, has a big chance to score tries, but also certainly kicks plenty of goals there. So if Reece Walsh was kicking last week, for example, that could have been a 75, 78 point score quite easily there. We also look at, I also don't mind Drinkwater. I'm surprised we haven't had many Dream Waters mentioned in the chat just yet. I'm sure we'll get some soon. If I was to go anywhere away from those three players that you've mentioned in Mitchell, Papenhuyzen and Hammer Tabuai-Fidow, it would be Scotty Dreamwater. Look, the Gold Coast Titans are a bit of a basket case at the moment. They're without Jaden Campbell. They just got touched up by the Eels last week. And Isaiah Yongi scored 53 points. He didn't score a try. He didn't kick goals. But that's still, 53. Scotty Drinkwater does kick goals. If the Cowboys can score 30 or 40 points, which certainly isn't out of the question, Drinky, probably is likely to score a try there as well. And if we just use that sort of similar measurement from last week with Isaiah Yongi, there's an opportunity for 60, 70, 75 points there for Scotty Drinkwater. So he's probably that play that could go big. The Titans already concede 48 points to fullbacks as it is, but with the goal kicking duties and Purdue moving back to the centres, which is where Drinky's numbers have been a lot better with Clifford in the team. It means I think he's in for a really big match as well. We have to wait to the last match of the round for that. But I think I'll have Drinkwater in at least one of my squads. I think there's every chance that the Cowboys right a few wrongs and get back into the winning circle with a nice big win here over the hapless Titans, and Drinky's going to be a big reason for that.
Yeah, and as you said, Drinky obviously has an opportunity to score tries, but he is pretty good at setting them up as well. His try assist numbers this season, he's assisted 13 tries, which is the most of any fullback. And interestingly, last week I only had 3 try assists up against the Titans, so they definitely are susceptible to a fullback try assist there. So I think Dreamwater has an opportunity. And just looking at the comments, I think everyone, as Mel said, is still recovering from the Dreamwater nightmare around last week. And I think, to be honest, that was the reason why I got up over Prison Mike in the Challenger comp. I stuck and tried and true methods of certain players, and he took a punt on Drinkwater, and unfortunately didn't pay off for him. So I'm pretty thankful that Dreamwater had a bit of a shocker last week. But I'm quite keen to play him now that we've looked at those stats, and there's some high upside there for Drinkwater, and I think he'll find his way definitely into a couple of the competitions. But I just think those three are sort of the first 3, and then I think Drinkwater comes into sort of that 4th position. As you touched on as well, Reece Walsh sort of coming back into some form. He had a pretty good game against the Sharks there. I would be looking at him maybe in any other week where we didn't have those sort of 4, or even if Teddy was there, 5 options. So I think Reece Walsh is still on the outer, as with Kalen Ponga, sort of similar. I think both of them have got some tougher type matchups this week. And, I'm kind of leaving Walsh out there, thinking he might have a big game against the Warriors as well. But I hope he doesn't, because I hope the Warriors have a big win after our horrible loss last week.
Yeah, that match 2 weeks ago, Drinkwater 11.3 points there against the Dolphins. Put a line through that. Interesting that Prison Mike wanted to play him against the Roosters. I think the Roosters the best defensive matchup for fullbacks. He still scored 32 in that match, despite almost looking to have done nothing. But yeah, that matchup with the Titans is so much better on paper. I can't see him going. Yeah, but no way he goes below 32. And I'd even, put that number as high as maybe 50 or something. I expect a score over there, which is certainly what the Troll, Pappy, and Hammer are capable of as well. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see him go big. All right, mate. Our teams for round 17. Here's a look at our Classic Cup squad. So if Artful Dodgers or the Vegan Rabbit are prying currently live in our stream or through the week, they've got a bit of an inside look into who we're going to run out with. Obviously, what they can't see is our rarities and who we're going to throw a bit of extra salary on, although we've sort of alluded to a few of those players already this evening. There's a pretty good look at the teams that we're going to roll out and the players that we've spoken about at length this evening. Obviously, there's always an asterisk with those teams, aren't there, mate? I don't think I've ever run out with the exact same team I put up on a Wednesday night. There's always those late sort of changes during the week, whereas we get a bit more news about, player health or player omissions and that sort of thing. But 4 differences between you or I. Always good to have a couple of different ideas, and we'll see who comes out on top next week. What I do know is that I've been coming out on top of a little bit more frequently than you. I know that you probably won 3 in a row, but normality has restored. I think you mentioned it. We're back to a 10-5 scoreline in my favour. So another Bro Down Showdown win for Stu. You want to see who's going to win a prize for picking me
let's
this week?
See that. Yeah. 10-5 across the season so far. That does include Queensland versus New South Wales as well. And I think you lost a few supporters on that 3-0.
What is this?
3-0 run that I was on. No one was keen to go with you. So Michael, Matty P, and our mate John Boney, obviously backing you. So good luck to them. They will potentially win a Unreal card. Let's see who's up today. Lovely, and it is Matty P. Congrats, Matty P.
Well done, mate.
Alrighty, and because you were up and you've hit that double-digit mark against me, I went out of my way and I got a 3-player unique for you this week, mate. So
stop it.
Let's open that here. I'm going to share this tab instead, so you should be able to see that 3-player unique.
Yep. Got the pack on screen.
Lovely.
Let's get a big animation. Bang.
Yep, here we go. Okay. So could be a potential to give away a diamond here. Where do we want to start?
Or a legend.
Or a legend. Whew, imagine. Do we want to start with giving one away?
Yeah. Matty P. Matty P picked the right player so he can have the right card.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. It is the diamond.
He's got a diamond.
And It is Egan Butcher. Probably not the best diamond you can get, but...
Hang on. Pause the phone. Everyone, stop. We've had a momentous...
What happened?
We've had a momentous occasion. Sif Kanga. Ha, ha, ha. But they're not in capital letters. What is doing?
Mate,
we need to hear the story, mate. We weren't telling you to change. We're just wondering. But what happened? Did you get a late keyboard change partway through the episode? Did you just press that caps lock button?
He's on
the phone now. All right, no, all good.
I was going to say that's almost better than getting a legend.
Just threw me for a moment there.
Oh boy, I didn't know what was going on. All right, so the Egan Butcher diamond that is going out to Matty P. Let's see what else we can get in this pack. We've got a Matty Croker. We've got a second diamond, and it is Griffin Knee. Oh well. You can't win them all. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. Opening packs.
2 diamonds out of 3. Pretty good.
Just means I'm keen to open some more packs now.
For all our maths nerds, what's that? 66.6% were diamonds.
I'm not a maths teacher.
Anyway, this week you've spun the wheel, and we've landed on these 3 positions for Bro Down Showdown. We've got to select a fullback, a hooker, and an edge player. So, same as always, if you think Dill is going to get the chocolates this week with his selections of the Hammer, Blake Brayley, and Keon Korlamatungi. Make sure you comment Dill's name in the chat right now. If you like my selections in Latrell Mitchell, Harry Grant, and Jacob Preston, make sure you comment Stu. Not many of you had faith in me that last match, and yeah, 3 people had a chance to win. So who are you going to select this round? Comment Dill if you think he's going to get up, or my name. If you don't do it during the live show, that's fine. Just make sure you get that in the comment section as well, and let us know the matchups as well. If you think Dill's going to win, is it going to be 2-1, 3-0? I don't think we've had a 3-0 maybe all season, but certainly not anytime recently. No. Can you remember a 3-0 at all?
I think we had one back in sort of round 3 or 4, and that's it. It's always been a 2-1 every other time. So it's there or thereabouts. Look, I've got to be honest, looking at that matchup there, I think that is the strongest matchup we've had so far.
I was thinking the same thing reading them out.
it looks so good, and that's a tough one. So I think some people might have to go away and run some numbers and go dig a little bit deeper. But it looks like a few are coming through for me already, which is great to see. I love the support. It just means you're not following the winner from each and every week. You're thinking more about the matchup, which is great to see.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, that's it for another live show of the Game Day Squad Rugby League Fantasy Show. Thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. As always, I cannot believe that we're already talking about the next show being round 18. It's incredible. We're over a third of the way through.
Yep.
So that'll be next Wednesday, July the 2nd. Join us for round 18. It'll be a bit of a shortened round as well. The last major bye round with 7 or 8 teams out there on the bye. So a bit of normality will return soon enough once the Queensland versus New South Wales competition has come to an end, and we've got all teams fit and firing for the home run. Thanks for joining us as always, everybody. Been a pleasure. Make sure if you're new or you want to get involved, or you want to get some mates involved, get them signed up, entering the code FBRL25 for 3 9-player common packs, and they can get straight into that contender competition, which is giving away some fantastic cash and pack prizes right through to the top 100 people. All right, well, good luck for round 17, everybody. Good luck for those commenting. I've got a few more stews coming through now.
Good stuff.
Dill, good luck. Hopefully you can go back-to-back on that massive challenger win. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Good luck for round 17. Catch you next week.
I'll do my best next week as well. I will be at the snow. I'm going snowboarding, so I'll do my best to be on the show.
Must be nice.
Sorry, it's a tough life, but I'll be shredding down at Perisher, but I should be on the show. I will do my best to be here. If not, I'll be watching along for sure. So good luck, everyone. Have a great week. I think we'll finish with Sif Kanga's quote here that Grant's going to let you down, Stu. I'm going to win. Wonderful work. Have a great week. Good luck, everyone.
That's the fake Sif Kanga. No capitals. Doesn't count.
Thanks for watching. Keep it tight.